Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Simone. This is a conversation that we have all the time, and I just want to get a sense from you, particularly in the ICT sector. Where are we in South Africa?
Thanks so much. It's great to join you. And I think also just at the outset, coming out of Women's Month, and I think it's such an important topic, and I'm so glad that we're actually doing this in September to show that the focus should not only be on this issue during Women's Month, but throughout the year. So South Africa in particular, we can't isolate it. We have to look at it in the global context. And I draw the focus to the World Economic Forum, when earlier this year they placed the issue of gender parity very high on the agenda. And that was probably as a result of the findings of the 2017 gender report, which indicated that countries are still very far behind in terms of gender parity initiatives. South Africa, though, in that context, is doing fairly well. It's ranked 19th out of 144 countries currently, and 5th out of the G20 countries. So actually doing really well there, but we're about 170 years away from gender parity according to the World Economic Forum. A lot of the issues have been investigated by a number of companies. Especially PwC has done a very worthwhile report in the tech industry in particular. So what's important to note here is it's an educational issue. It starts at the school level. And if you look at graduates from university, currently the ranking, there's a massive imbalance between men and women. So currently you have 2 for every 5 boys, 2 girls for every 5 boys that are studying ICT. And I think this is a significant issue. I think it stems from stereotypes, not only from a specific female gender issue, but also from an ICT sector specifically. Traditionally, I'm sure you can relate, that girls were not raised to believe that they are technically minded. You know, we don't go into construction, we don't always go into manufacturing. It's more and more prevalent these days. However, it definitely is not the norm, and I think a lot of young girls are still growing up with the belief that that was a traditionally male area, and they're not even considering that as an opportunity for themselves. So I think that's critical. PwC also identified that out of the top 10 tech companies globally, only 19% of the workforce is female, which is a shocking statistic. And then out of the leadership roles, only 28% of the leaders are women. So that is definitely something to consider and to account for. And I think we'll talk a bit later about how we get around this issue. Another thing that has been highlighted in a number of both the World Economic Forum reports and also in the PwC reports are that women are earning significantly less than men. Currently in South Africa, it's rated at 60 cents for every 1 rand that a man earns. So that's definitely something to look at. Another issue that we need to consider in South Africa in particular is having very good role models for young girls who are wanting to enter this sector. There is an amazing initiative that was launched by women in Cape Town, and I was aware of it before, but while I was looking into things for this interview, I actually looked at it in more detail, and it's called Girl Hype, and it was founded by Barating Mia. She is a black woman. She's a self-taught coder, which I think is incredible. She initially studied law. She wanted to become a lawyer. And the story goes that when she went for her interview, I think it was at the prosecuting authority, she was pregnant, and when they saw that, they didn't take her on. And she then went into a number of different careers and eventually taught herself how to code, which I think is amazing. And she's now looking at young girls and trying to help them get into the ICT field.
Right. I mean,
you've spectacular.
No, absolutely. And you've mentioned an array of issues. You know,
I'm passionate about this topic.
You know, the skills development aspect, which is absolutely critical, and I think that probably relates to some of the reasons why we don't see women within the sector in various corporates. But another one, as you mentioned, this beautiful story that I just thought of, is access. So she had the resources to go and teach herself how to code. Yeah. But how do we provide access to other young women? I mean, is there enough stakeholder engagement to make sure that these resources are available?
I think we're moving towards that, but I don't think it's enough as yet. So if we look at how do we achieve gender parity, it takes buy-in from all organizations. It's not sector specific, although we're talking about tech today. It is a general problem, a general issue. How do we tackle it? Firstly, I think there's the education of it from a young age. As you say, access is a particular issue. Not everybody has got access. There are a number of boundaries to entry. So I think it's stakeholders, particularly in the tech industry, getting together and establishing policies, workshops, having role models that can go out and give access and sponsor the youth and showing them what opportunities exist. Look, from a legislation perspective, we're very lucky to have a very good constitution which definitely recognizes the rights of women, the rights to equality. If you look at the ICT legislation in particular, the Electronic Communications Act gives a specific recognition to the promotion of women and disadvantaged persons as an objective, and it's the same in the Broadcasting Act. And then, of course, our Employment Equity Act, which has been amended fairly recently to give more strides to equal pay for equal skills. So it's a difficult question because, of course, its financial resources are a big part of this, but it's essential to make this a board level agenda item and ensuring there's awareness within organizations that there's so much opportunity, there's so much skill by leveraging off both women and men that it's essential to focus on it.
Yeah, I mean, a final thought from you, the importance of closing the gap and really the economic contribution that could be made thereof.
Of course. So closing the gap, obviously there's the moral and ethical way to look at it. Of course, women are important, you know. They make up, as I said, more than 50% of the population. It's a deep level of skill. It's a massive talent pool that's being wasted currently. Women also bring a lot of diversity, so it's different ideas, different perspectives that often advocate very different objectives and goals, which is important. So it's family interests, which is more attractive to especially millennials. I think women can, not that men can't, but I think women are more geared to recognizing those needs. Obviously, there's a financial benefit as well. The PwC report also indicated that if there was a mere 10% reduction in our gender parity levels, it would increase our GDP by 3.2% and bring down unemployment by up to 6.5%, which would be fantastic.
6.5%. I mean, at this rate, we absolutely need every little bit of reduction that we can get.
Sure.
But thank you, Simone. Very interesting insights there from Simone Dickson, who's the Director in the Technology and Sourcing Practice at Cliffe Dekker Hofmeyr.